talk about my latest skirmish with the Edge browser. Me and the Edge browser are having a little battle that's been on for a couple of years now, and I've had another little, me and it have had words, let's put it that way. So I thought I'd explain it. And in order to explain it, I've got to go back a wee bit to something we talked about a few months ago. You remember one of the first or second of the Windows things we did? I talked about file associations and how an RTL file is a rich text file and TXT is a text file and a PDF's a portable document format and all that stuff. And you have a default application, a default program that does each of those. So, for example, if I double click on a PDF, then the PDF opens, right? And that's grand. If I double click on something that is, there's an MP4, there we go. And the appropriate program opens for that. That's one way of opening a program, double clicking on it. There's another way, which is to type its name at a command line, and that will open the program and it will pick the default application to open it with. Whatever the application is that it needs will be opened. And that's all done either by double clicking or for the command line here or inside a program. Let's see if I can do the inside a program one. There's a program for something that I'm doing for Jim at the minute. And there's the start process, which will start Inkscape fully maximized. And that one there will start UGS, which is something to drive the hurdy-gurdy. And again, that's inside a program just by calling that. And exactly the same as if I double click it, or if I type its name inside the command line, because I've called the appropriate file name, it will start the appropriate program, the default program. Now, this is all done by a part of Windows called Windows Explorer, right? And there's lots of things called Windows Explorer, so you got to be careful of this. There's the File Explorer and the Network Explorer and the Device Explorer and all that happy stuff. But this is just Explorer. And Explorer is what they call the executive. Back in the day, back when I was a lad, there was command.com on DOS, and that was the executive. That was the program that ran the computer. The executive that runs Windows is this explorer.exe. Have you ever had a situation, I could demonstrate it, but if I demonstrate it, it'll probably kick me off Zoom and we don't want that. Have you ever had a situation where you're sitting and all the icons disappear, and then after about 5 seconds, they all pop back in again? That's Explorer crashing. If the program Explorer crashes, the last thing it does is it restarts Explorer. And when Explorer starts, it puts all the icons back and all the things in the taskbar. And that's the Explorer program crashing. And it's Explorer, when I double click something, when I give it its name, when I name it by parts, that causes the appropriate program to be loaded and the appropriate document to be given to the appropriate program. There's one wee wrinkle, and where are we here? If I want to give it a URL for the web browser, then I have to call Explorer by name. So I type explorer.exe and then the name of the URL I want to go to, and it opens that URL in my chosen browser, which is exactly what you would expect. That's how it works. I'm going to close that again. However, I've discovered that if you go to certain web pages, where are we now? It opens them, but not in your default browser. This is Microsoft Edge. It has opened here. Why is that? It turns out that if you're inside a Microsoft product or you're on a Microsoft website, then Microsoft doesn't send that there, explorer.exe, in the name of the file. What it sends is it sends to Explorer something that says Microsoft Edge : de-dum. And that there, up until a few years ago, or a few months ago, the Explorer wouldn't have understood, but nowadays it does. And if it sees that, it'll open that page, but it'll open it in Microsoft Edge. So we've got this means whereby Microsoft can make Edge open up against the rules. The rule is that the default program should get opened. My default is Firefox, and so any web page should be opened in Firefox. But because of this wee sneaky thing that they've put inside Explorer, Microsoft can make Edge keep getting used. And if Edge keeps getting used, then they can claim it's got so many more users, and they can force updates on me, and they can do all sorts of things that I don't want them doing. So what am I going to do is I'm going to open Edge, and I'm going to search for something. And I'm going to search for something that has been developed by people that are just a wee bit ahead of me, called Edge Deflector. And what Edge Deflector does is it puts a shim, a fine piece of program, 4 lines, into Explorer that does away with this Microsoft Edge : deflection. And it means that anything that gets sent to Microsoft Edge.anywhere, the Microsoft Edge thing gets taken off of it, and it then gets passed to your default browser. So you continue to use your default browser, even if Microsoft say, no, you can't. So I'll leave that up. It's a GitHub site. It's called DA2X Edge Deflector. But if you just Google Edge Deflector, all one word, you will find it because it's top of the lists. The reason that I found it myself was because it's just been announced that Microsoft are putting a blocker to block Edge Deflector into Windows 11, so that this won't work in Windows 11. However, know that we men in high places are working hard on a Windows 11 Edge Deflector, even as we sit here talking about them. So that's it. It's a wee piece of code that you maybe want to use. It's only half a dozen lines. You can uninstall it. It's very simple, but it stops Microsoft and their products from going and loading Microsoft Edge whenever you don't want it. If you take Microsoft Edge out of your machine altogether, things break, because some of the DLLs and stuff that are there to support Microsoft Edge are also used by other parts of the operating system. So uninstalling it can be problematic. But if you leave it in there and it keeps opening up unknowns to you, here's a way of stopping it. And that's it, that's all.